Hello, girls, guys, or otherwise. This is Rich with your Ouija Book Club series. We are going through lesson 8 of the book Modern Magic 12. 12 Lessons in the High Magical Arts by Donald Michael Craig. If you would like to get your copy, there is a link down below so you can follow along in this. So, I'm just going to say, I have not prepared myself physically to do a video. Today has been a stress-filled day. My partner and I, we brought my partner onto my cell phone plan, and it has been an atrocious experience. So after about 7 hours yesterday of figuring out how to transfer a number over, today has been dealing with basically they told us that we were going to be paying a price that we are in fact not paying. We're actually paying more than what we were quoted, and I was quite irritated. So yeah, today's been a stress-filled day, and I'm not having it. I'm not having a great day as far as physically, but mentally I'm kind of here. So anyway, if I seem a little off or whatnot, that's why. Anyway, let's see. I want to give a shout out to the patrons. Thank you, Linda and Sophia. If you would like to become a patron on Patreon and support this endeavor of trying to get a Christo-Pagan church started, you can visit the link down below. If you'd like to get something physical back for your money, you can support me as an individual and check out the link down below for the eBay store. If you do not have the funds to support this channel or me as an individual, that's fine. You can support this channel in other ways. You can click the subscribe button right down there. You can hit the bell notification right down there. You can hit the like or dislike button right over here. Either one doesn't matter. It all appeases the algorithmic gods of YouTube. All hail the algorithmic gods of YouTube. You can leave a comment if you feel that I either missed something or was wrong about something to that effect. You can leave those comments down below, or if you just have a general question. I always love the general questions, and I got a eyelash or something right there. I'd probably have like dog hair all over me. I'm just not having it today. Anyway, you can do all of that, and if it is safe for you to do so, if you've done all that already, you can always share this on your social media platforms. So, in our grandest of traditions, let's go ahead and get on into it with the first sentence of the first paragraph. He writes, and this is on page 277. Excuse me. And I'm going to do very minimal or no editing to this. Yeah, I'm just not feeling it today. Sorry. He writes, in the previous lessons, as in several other lessons, I have indicated that theoretical perfection is not necessary for successful magical work. All you need is to do your best. So I completely agree. Doing your best or trying to become your best self in whatever you are doing is what really matters whenever it comes to doing any type of spellcrafting or anything like that. And you know what I just realized is I did not turn down my brightness on this old monitor here. I've been using my monitor for other things, and yeah, I like the brightness all the way up, but otherwise it's a little too bright for doing videos. Anyway, I agree with this. Trying to become your best self or doing the best that you can whenever it comes to witchcraft, magic, blah blah blah, all that good stuff. It is more the intent that goes behind it than the actual words that you say or the actions that you do. I absolutely agree with him on this. He goes on to say further on down, the fact is that most of us are not even aware or awake to our own capabilities and possibilities. He was talking here about, how, we don't realize that we can do better until somebody actually says that we can do better, uh, stuff like that. And yeah, I agree with this too. Most of us are not aware of the capabilities that we have as an individual until we are challenged to do so, and we are um, pushed into taking that leap into doing something that we're not necessarily comfortable in doing. We don't realize, hey, we actually can do it. We're actually a lot more powerful than we first believe. And keeping that in mind, your magic, your spellcrafting, your life in general, as long as if you keep in mind, hey, I'm a lot better than I give myself credit for, is going to be huge. That is what helps you gain more confidence and actually go into these situations of day-to-day life or in spellcraft, uh, with the confidence that you need in order to make things happen the way you need to and become your best self, the best version of you that you can be. Moving on to page 278, he says, understand what is excellent for you and accept nothing less than excellence from yourself. And he does make this distinction in this lesson about not having OCD or not being um, focused on being perfect, but just trying to be the uh, trying to do what is excellent for you and not accepting something less. You can do better, then do better. If you are giving it 110% and you really can't give any more, then cut yourself some slack. You did the best that you could, whether you think so or not. So I know that with me, sometimes I'm overly critical. I'm like, no, I can do it better. I can do it better. And our projects never really come to fruition, because we constantly want it to be perfect rather than to be done. I've done that with videos for a long time where I'm like, no, I need to research this more before I put out this video on this, rather than saying, hey, instead of making sure that it's perfect, why don't I put a video out and then I can, follow up later and say, hey, I was incorrect about this, or now that I found more knowledge on this or more teachings on this, this is now how my beliefs have developed surrounding a certain thing. That has happened in the past, and I have evolved as a human being into accepting things that, or having a lifestyle that I may not have agreed with, but in previous years. So I think that's important to understand that, sometimes, especially whenever we're talking about projects or spellcrafting or whatnot, to have it done is better than to have it perfect. Trying to reach this perfect goal, this intangible perfect goal, is not always something that is feasible, and that's okay. As long as if it's done and it's good and it's excellent to the best of your abilities at that point, at that juncture in your life, that is what matters. Moving on, is on 282. He says, remember, involving the emotions and passion will enhance the power in any ritual. Absolutely agree. Doing a ritual or spellcrafting of any sort, putting your emotions and having that full forced emotion and intent into what you are doing in that moment in time, will be actually, I think, more impactful than if you're going around and saying the right words in the right tone. It's going to be better than using the right herbs with the right candle correspondences, or the color correspondences, and candles and oils and all that other stuff. Nothing matters more than to have the intent, the focused intent and emotion behind what you are putting into what you're doing. That is what is most important, and I fully agree with him on this. On 283, just a general thing. Here he's talking about the hours and the timing, spell timing, and doing a working and whatnot, and having the proper time, and how he says, okay, if you have 7 hours of darkness and there's supposed to be, we're dividing that into 12s, blah, 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 all that stuff. I mean, if you read the chapter, you know what it says. So to me, um, I never really followed the hours and the planetary positions and the planetary hours and when we have to do a spell at the certain time. And, even whenever it comes to certain moon phases, I don't necessarily pay attention to that as much, because to me, it's more of the intent that goes into your spell work than the external forces of moon energy and planetary hours and all of that other stuff. To me, it's more about the intent. If you have enough intent behind something, that is going to overrule the cycle of the moon. It's going to overrule the planetary hour. It's going to overrule the fact that you don't have this herb or that, or this oil or that. It's going to overrule all of that because you are so strongly focused and have such intent towards this one particular goal. So I wanted to talk about that just for a minute there. Now on 285, he has one of those little box sections, and it says playing all the bases. This was absolutely confusing to me. I still don't really understand what he's trying to talk about. How he's doing base 10, base 12, base 16, whatever. I don't understand that. That's not how my brain works. It's okay. I just found this as way too much math, way too complicated to have this section in this lesson. If this was a math book, then fine, but it's not a math book, so I'm kind of confused on what the point was behind it. But yeah, I just got so confused with that one. On page 286, he says, and I'm looking at the timer here. Oh, wow. We're only like 12 minutes in. I'm like almost halfway through the chapter. This is ridiculous. I didn't take a lot of notes on this chapter, to be honest. But anyway, on 286, he says, remember, a talisman itself is nothing but inherent material. It must be activated by the forces of higher planes and guided by our will. Even if you go to an occult store and buy an expensive and frequently poorly or incorrectly made talisman, it is still inert until it is charged. The effect of the following ritual is to endow the inert and impotent thing with balanced motion in a given direction. Okay. This is the same thing that I tell people whenever we're talking about tarot, or when we're talking about the Ouija board, or any type of magical working tool. I don't even have my deck of cards right here. Okay, so here I have the Vitruvian edition. Okay. Ooh, and I just got a whiff of all the Nang Champa incense coming out of that drawer too. So, the thing to note, well, this is produced by, Benabel Wen. But the thing to know about these is, these are just pieces of cardboard with especially this one, really, really pretty pictures on them. I tell people this whenever it comes to tarot. I'm like, it's just a piece of cardboard or piece of paper covered in plastic, produced by U.S. Games, and sold en masse to anybody that has $10-15. Whenever it comes to tarot, that's what it is. That it is nothing any more than that. It is a trigger for your psychic abilities, the inherent psychic abilities I believe that we all have. It's just that some are more in tune with it than others. But anyway, we'll get on to that topic some other time. Whenever I tell people about that, they're like, oh, devil's... I met one person that called it the devil's playbook, or it was the devil's the devil's picture book or something. It was something like that. And I said, no, it's just a catalyst for your psychic abilities. And the same thing is true whenever it comes to, excuse me there, I had had a little cough. But it's the same thing that happens whenever it comes to the Ouija board. The Ouija board is not inherently evil. It is not something that needs to be shunned or looked down upon in any way, shape, or form, whether by people in a magical practice or people who don't have a magical practice. No, the thing with the Ouija board is that it is a tool, and it is all in how you use the tool that really can have a negative effect. Otherwise, it's just a piece of cardboard covered in a plastic finish with a pretty picture on it of the alphabet. Nothing more. It is not inherently evil, none of that stuff. And so whenever he's saying about, things are inert whenever you are buying them, completely agree. It is the intent that we put into it, or the steps that we take to make it an evil board, or a good divination tool, or the devil's playbook, or a deck of tarot used for divination, mainly depending on the people. Love. So yeah, it is just in how we perceive it and how we actually use it that is how it's going to be, how it ends up affecting us. That's what I'm trying to say. So anyway, yeah, I had a thing to go on, a little tangent to go on there, and I noticed that I'm stumbling a lot with my words, and I do apologize for that. My mind is all over the place, y'all. But let's go ahead and move on to 288. He says here, destroy the town. This is in the number 4 of the notes section of this ritual. It says, destroy the talisman, burn and throw the ashes to the wind, or place them in running water, or bury them. Once this is achieved its intended purpose, if you set a time limit on the talisman, destroy it at the end of that period, even if it does not seem like it has achieved its goal. It may have only started the motion to the desired end. Okay, the reason I picked this is because whenever I was on Pagan Perspective, when I was on there, we had so many times during the decade that I was on there that people would write in like, how do I dispose of the spell remnants, the stuff that I set fire to, or the melted wax, or the ashes from incense and whatnot? What do I do with that? And it was like every year we had the same conversation of how to dispose of spell remnants. You can flush them down a toilet, you can bury them in the backyard, or wherever you could bury it. You could throw it in the trash. You can, if it's, ashes, you can throw it in the wind. You can take it on the outskirts of town and bury it in a field somewhere. There are so many ways you can, if it's safe to do so, don't do this with like plastic or anything. You can throw it in a flowing water of a river. You can do these things, and that is acceptable. But I wanted to say to Donald Michael Craig, dearly departed, that thank you for giving us a solid way within. If somebody is only picking up this book, and this is the only book that they're using for spellcrafting or whatnot, for one, shame on you. But if this is the only book that people read, and this is a question that comes up a lot, and I am very glad that he actually included this in the lessons, so that people don't keep asking these questions. I can't remember if, I think Christopher Penzak put that in his books. Somebody out there can correct me if he did or did not. but I'm pretty sure. Um, but we would still always get the questions of, how do I get rid of the spell materials whenever the spell has been cast, or when the spell has reached fruition or whatnot. And it would come up at least once a year. And it was kind of crazy. It's like, we already did a video on this. Go back and look at it. You know, you had 5 days worth of people, depending on the year. You had all these people that gave explanations on how you, or gave instructions on how you can dispose of the spell materials. So, the next point that I wanted to touch on was on 290. And here he's talking about Jesus. He says that inner group had 12 disciples slash initiates. 12 plus 1 is the number typically associated with small groups such as covens. Now, I've probably had this, like, you know, this brain cannon before, but it just hit me. I'm like, yeah, Jesus was totally the leader of a coven. He was a high priest of a coven. To me, that is now canon, and if you don't like it, you can fight me. But I'm gonna kind of stick with that, because I think that is even more of a reason why, you know, the whole witchcraft in the Bible series. Yeah, he was part of a coven, or he was the high priest of a coven. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to 291. He says, it may seem stilted or artificial, yet it is still a good idea to dress up with pseudo-old English. This serves the same function as does the putting on of the magical robe. The robe indicates that you are not doing everyday things. The affected speech shows that you are not talking with your next door neighbor. I kind of agree with this. I do like a nice rhyming couplet, and I'm going to get into that here in a second with some other things I have marked here. But one thing that gets me is, now I ain't trying to find it. Nancy Chandler Pittman. I did a review on Christian Wicca by Nancy Chandler Pittman. I think she goes by Nancy Chandler now, but whatever, or Nancy Pittman. It's one of those things. I think it's Chandler. But anyway, doesn't matter. One complaint that I had about that book, other than the factual inaccuracies, was that she did all of these rituals in like old English style, like, you know, King James Version style, and it kind of takes you out of the moment. The these and thous and thines and blah blah blah, it gets to be a little too much. There is something to be said about keeping a ritual a little bit more relaxed, a little less formal, because you have more heart into it. And one thing that I would challenge people to do is try doing a silent ritual. Not necessarily a dumb supper, but Annie did a video years and years back on a silent ritual and how she invokes the elements and, you know, will hold space. And yeah, I think it's quite well done. In fact, go check it out if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a while, go check it out. But to me, it's more about the intent that you're putting in rather than what you're saying. And if it has a thee and thine, the thou, you know, all those things, it gets way too complicated, and then you start stumbling over and you're like, wait, did I say thy or thee or thine? Which one did I say? Did I do something incorrect? And then you start catching yourself, or you end up starting to second guess yourself in what you're actually doing. It takes you out of the moment. It kind of like stiffens everything up a little too much, and it's just unnecessary sometimes. So yeah, I kind of disagree with him about using the pseudo Old English, because it can get in the way of ritual. Now, with that also being said, I do love the way that he does the wording in this, the complete ritual for charging and consecrating a talisman. I think this is a well-constructed ritual. First off, I want to address that. This is a solid ritual. It is well put together. It is well. It has all the pieces to it of a very good ritual, a very formal ritual, and I kind of like that. You don't necessarily need this formal of a ritual, but I kind of like it. The thing I like the most about it is the wording. Um, One thing in particular is whenever at the very beginning, thank you, O Lord, grand architect of the universe, for thy permission to construct this temple as a tiny, pale echo of thy greater creation. May thy blessing fall upon it for thy name's sake, so mote it be. Now, you can tell, like, whenever I was just reading that, the thys and thine, or the thys, I kind of stumbled on it. So maybe I would, reword this a little bit. Thank you, O Lord, grand architect of the universe, for your permission, instead of using thy, your permission to construct this temple as a tiny pale echo of your greater creation. May your blessing fall upon it for your name's sake. See how different it can be whenever you just put a little heart into it rather than trying to stick to an old English verbiage. You can definitely change it up. So for me, that's one thing that I would end up doing for this. The next part is on 299, and he writes, until you break down all the trappings of your area, it is still a temple and should be treated as such. Until you put everything away, be sure to walk clockwise in your temple. The end of the ritual does not end the spiritual qualities of the area. Now, I'm a little wishy-washy on this, because there is something to be said about keeping the temple area, while it is being utilized as a temple area, to keep that reverence and keep that that feeling of, this is sacred, this is holy ground, this is a holy area that I am in. However, if it's not being used, if temple is not set up, or if you have closed down the session, and it's no longer being intended to be used as a temple, then yeah, I don't necessarily agree with still needing to walk the same way and whatnot. I, for instance, especially the old witchy room, which was upstairs, I had that always set up, ready to do ritual at any time. I could go up there and just go right into ritual. No problem. Now, I'm not putting things down, or not putting things all away, just so I can walk to and from the door, like from the door to a chair to write down spell work or whatnot. I'm not going in a circle around the room just so I can go and do work at a little desk over there, to write a spell. I'm not going to walk around the room like that, because it's not needed. We are not in the working of a temple. Does that make sense? It's just not something that I think would be necessarily needed. However, whenever it is set up and being utilized as a temple, absolutely have the reverence, have the respect, have the have the essence of it being sacred, or have the, I don't even want to say the feeling of it being sacred. Have the knowledge that you are on sacred ground at that moment in time. I think there is definitely a time that whenever you are shutting down, or when you have shut down the session of temple work, that it is no longer necessarily a temple being utilized. And I mean, this goes back to my time whenever I used to help out at the chapel on base down in Kansas, is that whenever we were done with the service, it's no longer a church. It is just a chapel area where anybody of any religion can come in and feel comfortable. we had to do what is called neutralize the chapel. So there were crosses out, you put the crosses away. You have a Christian flag out, you put that away. It was not an intended space to be used specifically for one religion or another. So yeah, I think if you neutralize it by saying, okay, temple is done, or the temple has closed for today, then that's it. I don't think you need to put everything away. I think once you shut down temple's done. But anyway, I hope that all made sense. I think I'm going to, I think I'm going to just wrap this up. I'm having quite the day. My head's a little spacey. I'm sorry this video probably seems a little, half-hearted. It's not. It's just that I've had a long, rough day. I slid into home and just skidded the entire way in. Anyway. Yeah, that's all that I have for Modern Magic, 12 Lessons in the High Magical Arts by Donald Michael Craig. Again, you can get your copy down below. That is an Amazon link. I do suggest people go to their local witchy shops or local bookstores and whatnot. Support your small businesses. That is an Amazon link. So, anyway, that's all. I'm done today. I think I'm just going to take a break the rest of the day. Anyway, I will catch you all on Tuesday with our Tarot Talk Tuesday. I cannot remember for the life of me which tarot card we're doing. I don't remember right now. My mind's a little too spacey and headaches are starting to form. Until next time, may you have love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye.